Greetings, welcome to KNY7. We're going to get right into it. District Attorney of Georgia, Fani Willis. She's made a lot of controversial news in the past. She's a strong politician. She's actually live right now, so I want to show some footage, some previous footage, and we'll get caught up with it. But she is going off, so she seems very upset with how things have went on in the past with her, and they were making a scandal out of her and the attorney that she hired onto the firm with them rather and her take on gangs in Georgia and things like that. She's had a tough task force in place, and she's definitely a tough woman. Very well educated, very well poised. I like how she handles herself. I definitely have to say that. So we'll just get right into it. But I was kind of shocked because she's like, "What the hell you talk about?" So it's a lot of going back and forth. So let's see what's going on with that and tap on in. So this is some politics going on live, breaking right now. You're live with KNY7. I hope all is well. Thanks for joining in.
To approve by Senator Jackson, second by Leader Senator Gooch. All those approved, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. And the minutes are approved. That are in attendance today, just want to kind of go through a couple of guidelines on decorum. I understand there's some, obviously there's media in the room, press has lines. I think you guys are all clear on where you're allowed to be in the committee room, where you're not allowed to be. So thank you for working with our Senate press staff on that. If there are any available seats in the middle of your aisle, please, or in the middle of your row, please scoot over. We do have overflow in room 125 here in the Capitol building, for any of you that want to avail yourself of the overflow room as well. This is a Senate committee hearing. This is not a courtroom. There is no judge in the room. We will adjudicate the meeting today per the Senate rules and Mason's manual. We have the Secretary of the Senate available to advise us if there's any considerations. Governor Barnes, you are here as counsel for DA Willis, is that correct?
I am, but
over. We do have overflow in room 125 here in the Capitol building for any of you that want to avail yourself of the overflow room as well. This is a Senate committee hearing. This is not a courtroom. There is no judge in the room. We will adjudicate the meeting today per the Senate rules and Mason's manual. We have the Secretary of the Senate available to advise us if there's any considerations. Governor Barnes, you are here as counsel for DA Willis, is that correct?
I am, but I can assert privilege. I mean, you can't decide privileges that are granted by
No,
law.
I didn't say anything about privilege. I was just referencing that that's the capacity in which you're appearing today.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And just want to kind of maybe cast a net is for those of you that have not been here for any of our committee hearings. This committee is charged with investigating and advising the General Assembly on any changes to Georgia state law as the committee deems necessary as a result of our investigation into the criminal prosecution as it relates to the election interference case of President Trump and the 18 others. We've had a series of meetings and have been working with the District Attorney Willis to appear today. We had a state law that passed, and as my understanding, you are appearing under the second subpoena that was issued, and there is still a Supreme Court case relative to the 2024 subpoena and the General Assembly that issued that, or the Senate that issued that at that time. Great. I referenced signs briefly. It's my understanding that there's some people that have signs in the room. You're obviously welcome to have those. Please just don't hold those up, as you will be blocking views from other members of the committee. We do have a single-purpose agenda, and with that in mind, we will go ahead and swear in our witness today. Madam DA, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a statement I'd like to include in the record.
Sure. If you want to pass that around to us, be happy to make that as part of the record.
And I'm doing that because I was prohibited from giving a statement.
Yeah, so again, this is going to be analogous. I know it's been a while since you've been in the state senate. You've had an illustrious career since then. As you know, committee testimony is different than courtroom procedures, and there's generally not opening statements in Senate committee testimony.
I've
and
never
that was
known an investigative committee that did not allow opening statements.
we will proceed with the testimony, and if either one of you and Madam DA. Is that the preferred title? Is how you'd like to refer to you?
Either District Attorney Willis or Madam DA.
Perfect. We'll go with either one of those. Thank you for being here today. Please do pull that microphone closer or lean forward when you speak. I'll try to get the volume adjusted so that everyone can hear it.
I doubt anyone will have trouble hearing me.
Fair enough. Just love if you could take a minute, walk us through your career history. I know that you have a 30-year legal history. If you could just tell the committee your path to becoming the district attorney in Fulton County.
Well, I went to the best university in the nation, Howard University, matriculated through there in 3.5 years and graduated December of '92, although I walked in May of 1993. I then came down to Georgia because I was admitted to one of the top 25 law schools in the country, Emory University School of Law. While at Emory University School of Law, for the first time in Emory's history, I won the Frederick Douglass Moot Court Competition, which is a national competition put on by the Black Law Students Association, successfully matriculated through, took the Georgia bar because the Olympics was that year. That was the last year that you could take the bar while still in law school. So during my last semester of law school, I took the bar and passed on the first try. Then became a lawyer. I worked for a small law firm with Alvin Kendall. Alvin Kendall has a great knack for picking talent because at that law firm at the time was myself and the former mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, who will be a great candidate for governor of this state and is now running for office. Also Teresa Mann, who is a judge in the city of Atlanta court, and another lawyer by the name of Carl Touchtone. We represented people in both criminal and civil cases. I worked there for a small time. I then left that law firm and opened up my own law practice where I practiced both juvenile law, criminal law, did some family stuff. Young practitioner. I did that out of Douglas County, Georgia, but I represented people in the entire metro area during that time. Got married, had 2 children, became a solicitor, needed a kind of a more calm life, so I went to work for Raines Carter, who's been the longest standing solicitor, I think, in the country at this point. Worked for him for some time, applied to become a district attorney, worked there approximately 16 years, tried every type of case you can imagine, but I was really a murder prosecutor. That's what I do best. But also at that time tried the longest case in Georgia's history, which is the Atlanta Public Schools case, a RICO case. That's how I became acquainted with John Floyd, because he taught me RICO inside and out, and taught me how you can use that to bring criminals to justice, which I've done throughout my career successfully. Worked there, then decided to leave to run for office. Ran for judge, came up 49%, I believe, is the percentage of the vote that I won. Actually went to a Republican strategist. He told me, because I went to a runoff, Republicans will not vote for you. And I said, why? I've had a history of representing this state. I've done so successfully. I'm known as a prosecutor. He said, you're black and female. I said, I don't believe that to be true. I don't think that's the state of the nation. Who knew? He was right and I was wrong. I lost that election, but that was God's plan, because after that, I had the honor of representing the Judicial Qualifications Commission. I'm one of the only black lawyers to ever be able to do that in the state of Georgia, where I prosecuted judges who had done something wrong. And so that was a great honor of mine. Richard Hyde was one of the people that helped me to get that position, because he had worked with me on Atlanta Public Schools. I think that he's still doing that kind of work, and he's a very great investigator. So I did that for a while. I also got to represent a lot of fathers and mothers as they went through domestic things, did some criminal defense work, and then people started coming to me. You need to run for district attorney. Current district attorney has some problems. You'd be outstanding at it. And who knew? I ran, I won. I'm the first woman to serve as district attorney in Fulton County, Georgia. Best to ever do it. I sit here with a 92% conviction rate. That's my history.
Excellent. Thank you so much. For those of us on the committee, it'd be helpful to kind of get a scope of what your office structure is like and kind of the makeup of your office. So how many employees are within the Fulton County DA's office?
A little over 300 approximately. All numbers that I give today, which should be approximations. You should not hold me to exacts.
Certainly will do so on these questions for sure. Of those employees, about how many of those are attorneys?
Half,
About 150 attorneys. How many investigators?
65.
Okay. And how many paralegals?
I don't know, about another 70 or so professionals. Some of that is VWAPs, some of that is administrators, some of that is legal assistants. I'm not going to be able to guess at these numbers.
Sure. The state pays a minimum salary for all district attorneys and assistant DAs, is that correct?
No.
No.
Okay. Can you walk us through the pay structure?
The state pays for my office about 25 ADAs. They're woefully underpaid. The salary that the state paid is a joke right now. If you want to look at some legislation, you should look at paying DAs across this country more money, because they do not make enough money, and it is very hard for people to recruit DAs at the state pay. So for those 20 or so some lawyers that work at state pay, I do one of two things as incentives. The first thing I do is the ones that work in-house, I give them supplements that the county pays, because the pay is so low and really just an embarrassment to think that we pay public servants at that rate. Another incentive I offer to some other very seasoned ADAs that are further along in their career that are my state paid employees, I let them work 95% remotely, and all they do is indict cases for my office. The rest of the lawyers paid by the Fulton County District Attorney's Office are in fact paid by the county. But you should note here that I am a state employee. I am not a county employee. I represent the Atlanta Judicial Circuit. The Fulton County DA is really slang.
Great. So give me a range then of those ADAs, including the supplement. What's the salary range of
Probably
those ADAs?
the lowest salary of any DA that works for me is 85, and the highest might be around 200. Again, don't hold me to exacts.
Sure. Okay. You were elected in 2020. We talked about that. You had a transition process in between the election and when you were sworn in. Can you walk us through what that process looked like?
It was not a very good one. Myself and the former district attorney never had a conversation. We still have never had a conversation. But while I was still on my personal time, not yet being paid by the state of Georgia, I interviewed every attorney and investigator of the office and some of the other staff, because I wanted to decide who I was going to keep and who I was not going to keep. So I did that during that time period. I also had some committee members where I got some advice on things that needed to be priorities for the office as I took office. So I got very esteemed members of the Fulton County and the greater community to kind of advise me. I believe in diversity, so it was a diverse group. If you do studies on diversity, although some of you are against it, you will realize that the companies that do the best employ diversity. And so I employed diversity in that committee, and I've employed diversity in my staff because I represent a diverse community.
Who was a part of that committee?
I don't remember all the names, and I'm not going to guess at it.
What names do you remember?
Oh, my goodness. Lee Dupree's husband, William Dupree, was on that committee. There was another anchor, and I'm embarrassed to say that was an African-American female. I'm not sure. I want to say Mayor Franklin may have been on the committee, but I can't remember exactly. There were about 15 to 20 people. That's been some time ago now.
The interviews that you referenced with the existing staff as you were kind of determining whether they would stay, who participated in those interviews with you?
It would be different people each day. Attorney Gabe Banks was one of the attorneys that did some of the interviews. He wasn't able to do all, of course, because he had an active and thriving law practice at the time. Jeff DeSantis did some of the interviews with me. Daisha Young did some of the interviews with me. People would come in and out based on their schedules. My deputy of operations now, Dexter Bond, did some of those interviews with me. Mr. Nathan Wade had a thriving practice at the time as well. He would come in and out and do some of the interviews. I was at every interview, but other people could only commit, so much of their time. They each did as much as they could. And that should not be the total list. That's what I can recall quickly right offhand. So don't take that as that was every person. I may have missed somebody that assisted me in that, and they'll have to blame it on my head, not my heart.
Okay. Who was a part of the team that made the decisions on who you would keep and who you would go? What was the consultation process after the interview, and how many approximately, if I can ask you this question a second time if you want to answer the first one, but I'm trying to get to how many people did you retain from the former DA's team, and then how many people were brought in that were new?
I don't remember. I might have fired 50 or 60 people, but I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
It's the AJC did an article on she fired people, to which I told Fulton County I was going to only bring the best and the brightest. So I was always confused as to why that was a surprise.
Was there a lead on your transition team?
I was the lead. I was the DA.
Okay. Was there another person that you consulted with more than the others?
No.
I believe Mr. Wade said under testimony that he was a part of over 90% of these meetings or decisions. Do you recall that being an approximate accurate statement as to his involvement?
I can't speak to any other person's testimony, so I'm not going to ever comment on someone's testimony. If he testified to such, you're going to need to show it to me. You'll have to forgive me. I don't really trust you. So I'll have to see that particular
Do you
testimony.
recall Mr.
But I
Wade being-
do.
Well, wait just a minute. She's got a right to finish her answer. You don't have a right to cut her off.
That's incorrect, Governor. Thank
No,
you.
sir. It is
I'll
not.
be completing answers, so sir. So
Sure.
we should get that straight from the.
Was Mr. Wade part of, would you say, more than half of the interviews that you conducted?
Yes.
Would you say it was more than 75% of the
I'm
interviews
not
you
going to guess
conducted?
at numbers. He was definitely more than half.
And what percentage of decisions, was the same percentage of decisions that he was a part of?
I ultimately made every decision. I take wise counsel from a group of people. So I took wise counsel from him. I took wise counsel from Deputy Bond. Ultimately, I made the decision on who stayed and who went.
Was Mr. Wade paid for this transition work?
None of them were paid. It was all volunteer work. It was wanting to make sure that the region was safe. So people volunteered their time to make sure that we had the best and the brightest representing Fulton County and that this community stayed safe. And every person who did it for free.
Thank you. Part of one of the things you did when you came into office was you formed this new anti-corruption unit. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Can you walk us through the decision process to stand that unit up, if that replaced any other units, and who was a part of that unit once it was stood up?
And I'm actually not sure we called it the anti-corruption unit when we first took over. So when I became the district attorney, Paul Howard had 101 police brutality cases, many that went back to years, maybe to 2009. People in the community were very upset. It was both unfair to the law enforcement officers and to the community that decisions were not made. And so I knew that one of the things that I was going to have to do was to make sure that every case got looked at and was evaluated. And so I was looking for attorneys to do that. I'm not sure if that's what we called it at first, because I think we called it the Civil Rights Unit, in fact. When we first opened it, I think it was the Civil Rights Unit. At some point, I go to visit other huge district attorneys' offices that have kind of the same kind of struggles that I have as a major metro area. I went to visit the Houston District Attorney's office at that time, and in that office they had divided cases, and I thought it was a brilliant way to do business. And so I think that's the point that I then formed a civil rights unit, which would only deal with police brutality, and an anti-corruption unit. So I think when we first started that it was called the Civil Rights Unit.
Okay, how many people were part of that unit once you got it fully operational?
Well, it depends. You know, the county has, in my opinion, stolen people from me, so we can't do the job as effectively as needs to be done. I've had as many as, it varies. It has varied because we had an anti-corruption unit and a civil rights unit, so it's varied.
Can you give us a range?
It really depends on who you're calling the anti-corruption unit. I've probably not had more than 2 lawyers in that unit, maybe 3 at any given time, an investigator or 2, and a legal assistant. They may have been doing double duty somewhere else.
And you entered into a contract with Chris Campbell to do some taint work as a part of that unit, is that correct?
That would be the civil rights unit.
Well, it sounds like they were somewhat interchangeable from what you just said. You said that it was called the
No,
Civil Rights Unit when it
because
started.
The civil rights unit may have encompassed everything at first, and then it ultimately becomes police brutality cases. And so what Mr. Campbell was, when the police take a statement, I know you're not an attorney, but there's an issue called garrity. And what happens is government employees, mostly we're talking about law enforcement officers, they will make a statement to the police, but that statement won't be Mirandized. There's all kinds of legal rules around it. I can't be privy to those statements. I shouldn't have them. Sometimes I think the police almost put them in there intentionally, and so they'll be intertwined in statements and reports. And so what he was hired to do is to redact. So once that I got a file from the GBI when somebody had been shot by an officer, I never read that. That way we were never tainted. That's why we use that word, by never seeing that. And so yes, he was hired. He had been, I believe my recollection is he had been a former law enforcement officer, and he was a lawyer. I thought he was great for that work.
And Terrence Bradley was involved in that work?
He had been a former
well,
probation officer and an attorney. That's one of the reasons that I thought that they would do outstanding at it, because they had long histories in the law enforcement community and lawyers.
Was Mr. Wade?
I have lawyers now currently doing that work.
Was Mr. Wade involved with the taint work?
No.
Mr. Wade, Bradley, and Campbell were law partners. Is that correct at the time?
Loosely is what I understand. I can't tell you about the design of, I can't tell you the design of his firm. I think more so what happened is they shared office space and cost or something, but I don't know. I shouldn't speak to that or speculate to it.
Did you place anyone in charge of the anti-corruption unit, or did everyone that worked for there report directly to you?
I mean, ultimately, everyone reports directly to me, but the anti-corruption unit, so when it was a civil rights unit, yes, it had a lawyer that was over it. His name is Brian Watkins. He is a lawyer that's been practicing law longer than I. And at first he had everything until we realized there was so much volume of work. Because it doesn't just do this kind of work. It's not just police brutality now, right? Now it's, police lied, or it's an elected official did something wrong. It just became too much. Once we stood up these units and my county understood we were doing these kind of things, fortunately or unfortunately, the office started to get referrals, and so it just grew.
How many cases has this unit brought to trial approximately?
Oh, I couldn't tell you over the years, but we brought some to trial, especially these police brutality cases. I couldn't tell you exactly, so I'm not going to speculate.
Okay.
It's not as many as like my major crimes unit, but I can tell you that the anti-corruption and the civil rights unit, they cost me the most money because of the experts that are needed when you are trying a police case.
How much money would you estimate that you spend a year on that unit?
I can't, and I'm not.
You can't, you're not what, I'm sorry?
I'm not going to speculate to it. I can't estimate how much.
Okay. Is that something you could provide for the committee?
I don't know that I can. What happens is I have a professional services budget, and my top deputies of certain units, so my ED over major crimes, if he needs an expert, he can hire one. For instance, if you all want to look into legislation, look into properly funding your GBI. The GBI does not have enough scientific experts. This is not a criticism of the GBI. The scientists that are there are excellent. I want that to be noted that I said that. The scientists that are there are excellent, but they do not have enough experts. So in year one, when I become the DA, they tell me, and I have an email that proves it, we can't test all your ballistics evidence. We don't have enough. So I have to go into my budget, more than $100,000, I can tell you that. I think it's been about that annually, and hire private scientists to do that ballistics work. Now, I got the names of those scientists from the GBI, but also my deputy, Mr. Watkins, over civil rights, if he needs an expert, he knows that he can get one. If my ED over major crimes needs an expert, they can get one. My domestic violence expert, if they need a domestic violence expert, they can get one. And so it all comes out of this professional services budget that I both pay attorneys that come in and work as special prosecutors, and that I pay professional witnesses that we have to hire to do our work.
So Mr. Watkins was in charge by title, or was it more so by function that he was in charge of the unit?
I don't understand your question.
Did he have a title of director of the anti-corruption unit, or was he just a person that everyone knew would make the calls within the unit?
He was the deputy of the civil rights unit.
Okay.
He remains the deputy of the civil rights unit. At some point, the civil rights unit became civil rights and anti-corruption.
Do you use those terms interchangeably now?
I do not use them interchangeably. I have one deputy over anti-corruption and one deputy over civil rights.
Who's the current deputy over anti-corruption?
Tanya Boykin.
Who is the first one?
Sonia Allen. She is now the district attorney of Cobb County. She had a great DA from Fulton endorse her, and she won.
What was Mr. Wade's role in the anti-corruption unit?
He didn't have a role in the anti-corruption unit.
The election interference case, what unit did it fall under?
I called it the election team.
Okay. When Mr. Wade was he hired solely to focus on this election, to work on this election team, or did he do other work within your office?
I don't remember. I think there were times where I'd bring in some of my senior personnel and ask them, what's your thought on this case or these facts? I always involve wise counsel. I'm sure he was in some of those meetings.
Would you classify Mr. Wade as senior personnel and as been part of your team?
Would I classify him as senior? So he was a special prosecutor. He never worked for me as an employee. What I would call him is a seasoned lawyer, 25 years, first African-American lawyer to ever serve Cobb County as a municipal court judge. What I would call him is a lawyer with a distinguished resume.
Okay. When did you begin to consider whether to bring charges in response to the 2020 presidential election in Georgia?
Don't answer that. That's a deliberative privilege. Don't answer that. I instruct you not to answer.
Is it true that part of your transition team was involved in the process of interviewing people before you entered office to lead the investigation into the 2020 presidential election?
I'd like to answer that.
Go right ahead. You only take my advice sometimes. Anyway, go ahead.
That's really an ignorant question. And if you understand what the word ignorant means, it means the lack of knowledge. If you recall the facts, I was already district attorney when this all came to light. So it's factually impossible.
You were district attorney when what came to light?
When Raffensperger went on Good Morning America or whatever show he went on. I was already district attorney, so what you ask is a factual impossibility. Now, I know they've gotten black folks confused and said I was running for office, saying I was going to prosecute the President of the United States, but that's what we call a lie.
Okay. I would like
Take
to...
your advice from here on out, okay?
Yeah.
I'd like you to take a look at the screen for me, if you will. This is from Mr. Wade's deposition to members of Jim Jordan's committee. And it was asked for the search committee. You said that began when D.A. Willis took office on January 1, 2021. Is that correct? Yes. And there was outreach to you to be part of the search committee prior to January 2021, January 1, 2021. Absolutely. When did that start? Sometime after the election, but prior to her taking office. Okay, so between the election, you're referring to November 2020 election, is that correct? Yes, ma'am. And so when you had conversations with individuals, you said on multiple occasions, you said no, and you turned down the position. Who were those conversations with? They were with the district attorney.
So I think you're confusing facts. We've already had a long conversation about I interviewed everybody at the DA's office, and I interviewed other people to come and work at the district attorney's office. And as I told you, I did that on my free time before I became DA. But I had no way of knowing that these criminals were going to commit a crime. And that did not come to light until January of 2021 when I'm actually the DA. So it is a factual impossibility, like I already told you. I think that that is misinterpreted. He's absolutely correct. We looked for talent for the district attorney's office before I became the DA. I didn't wait till the day I took office to look for talent that would represent my office. But I was unable to look for talent for a case that didn't exist before I took office. It's factually impossible. It's common sense. You don't need to be a lawyer.
I'm going to read you some additional testimony. I'll try to put it on the screen.
You can read me as much as you want. But
I will. Thank you, Madam Dear. And I apologize. I did not intend to have to get into this here. What was when Mr. Wade says that there was an interview on line 13, as you'll see here, this is prior to you entering office. What were you interviewing him for?
I didn't interview him prior to him entering office. He had a thriving law practice. Even when he ends up being offered the position, he doesn't want it.
Okay, now I'm going to So it's your testimony today that you and Mr. Wade did not have any conversations prior to you taking office relative to an investigation into the 2020 election?
Don't answer that. That is a deliberative privilege of what goes on in a district attorney's mind and the process that goes.
She wasn't district attorney.
She was.
Prior to being sworn in, she was district attorney?
No, she was not, but you asked.
So I'll return to my question. Prior to you being sworn in as district attorney, is it your testimony today that you did not have any conversation with Mr. Wade about investigating the 2020 election?
Do you want to answer?
It's a dumbass question.
I know it is, but go ahead and tell him because it occurred after she took office, but go
I
ahead.
didn't know that he was going to commit a crime prior to me taking office. Like, factually, it's impossible.
Okay, thank you. Would you agree with the statement? Actually, I'll skip that question. When did you decide to hire outside of your office a special assistant district attorney for this election case?
Oh, Lord. So when I became the district attorney of Fulton County, the office was in absolute chaos. I have to take you back. Can you hear me?
It's a little, I was going to try to turn you up if you don't mind leaning forward.
When I became the district attorney of Fulton County, the office was in absolute chaos, and I mean every level of chaos. On the ground, the carpet was molded and there were holes in it, and it was disgusting, a disgusting environment. There were boxes in offices, some to where you couldn't open the door. I remember walking through the office before. I told you I'd fired 50 or 60, I don't know exactly how many employees that I felt were unqualified to do this work. That doesn't mean they were bad people, but they were unqualified for the positions that they held. There were 18,000, write that down, 18,000 unindicted cases that went back 6 or 7 years that I was looking at. Not to mention another, 10,000 indicted cases in the system. Now, some that the judges had hid on judicial hold, but they were still there. So the office was in absolute chaos. And then I'm in the office I came in that Saturday, so that would have been day one. That was the day that I walked through the office. And I'm literally in the office that Monday or Tuesday, I can't recall now what day it is. And there's this phone call, and the Secretary of State saying, oh, the proper venue to investigate this might be Fulton County. And so my priority became, and this is important too, there were 200 and something murders that had been sitting for years, families that had been waiting for justice for years. And so when I come to be the district attorney, my first responsibility is just getting the office properly set up. In fact, one of the most important roles I held up that I tried to find was the head of the civil rights lawyer. So when Brian Watkins walked into my office and actually interviewed to come there, because he was not with the old administration, that was like a gift from God, that I had a lawyer that had enough experience and would be talented enough and ethical enough and have the integrity to do this work. But my primary job was getting the entire office set up. So I immediately do things like set up a murder backlog project. And I put Mike Carlson and Michael Sprinkle in charge of that. We're going to get every family's going to get an answer. They may not like the answer. The answer may be we can't prosecute this, but we're not going to sit with cases. We got to make decisions on these cases. And it took us years to get through that, but we did. And I'm happy to sit here and announce to you every one of those 18,000 cases, a decision got made on, to include those 101 police cases I talked about, as well as the 46,136 cases that came in January 1st, 2021 till December 31st of 2024. So while people tell these lies about the DA ain't been working, I want you to find a DA working as hard as me.
My question was, when did you decide to hire outside counsel, a special assistant district attorney, for the election interference case?
When it became obvious that this case would take so much investigation to learn the truth, and that I would need people that could focus on that. And although I had talent in the office that was being developed, each and every member of my staff had a priority. See, this is the most important case to you. Let me tell you what the most important case was to me. When I walked in the office, there had been 2 black children that had been killed, Sequoia Turner and Kennedy Maxwell. Those were the 2 most important cases to me as the DA. And I needed to make sure that those families got justice, but the cases didn't come with a bow on them. In fact, one of the cases was particularly not done properly. And so my priority became making sure I had the talent to make sure we got all of those cases done. If you're wondering, both those men are doing life right now for taking those children from us.
Certainly aware of the case in the autonomous zone and everything that happened back in that tragic time frame. So definitely appreciate those murderers being behind bars. So you didn't really give me a date range, but we'll just move on here. But you did consider Governor Barnes for this role. He's testified to that previously.
And let me tell you what Governor Barnes told me. Governor Barnes told me when he was the governor, he changed the state flag from the Confederate flag, and that as a result of him changing the Confederate flag to changing the flag to make it more inclusive to all Georgians, that the Ku Klux Klan sat outside his house and that he lived under threat during that time period. He told me that him and his beautiful wife had survived that, but that he was an older gentleman now. I'm going to say that nicely. He was an older gentleman, and due to the nuts that would come out of the woodwork if I was doing this type of work, that he was not at a juncture in his life where he could take those kind of security risks. He also refused to work for $250 an hour.
I can attest to that.
We've got some questioning in here, Governor, on your rates, and yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit. You did, Madam DA, you considered several attorneys for this case in addition to Mr. Barnes?
I did.
And ultimately, you selected Mr. Wade to oversee the anti-corruption unit. Is that correct?
He never oversaw the anti-corruption unit.
My apologies, to oversee the elections interference case.
To manage, yes.
How would you delineate manage versus my choice of oversee?
They're the same.
Okay. What happened between January 2021, I believe that's when the phone call was that you referenced, in November 2021, which was the time that Mr. Wade signed his first contract? What type of work happened within any area of your office in terms of gathering evidence or considering whether or not to bring these charges?
You want me to answer? Not particularly. I don't think it's any of their business.
You're getting into why a grand jury returns a bill of indictment. That is a deliberative process wrapped in the discretion of the district attorney. We're not going to get, I'm going to instruct her not to answer. Wait just a minute. Let me finish. You can, if you see fit, you can seek to enforce that question, at which time she would be entitled to a jury trial in Fulton County, and I would be able to cross-examine you with each one of you with a real judge ruling on real law. But until that happens, I'm going to instruct her not to answer.
So in your advice of counsel, you're asserting privilege?
I'm telling her not to answer.
I'm clarifying with the witness.
You don't have to answer that. I'm not a potted plant. I can answer.
You can advise. You can absolutely advise your client, Governor Barnes. I'm asking your
I
client.
suggest you move on.
I'm asking your client if you are asserting privilege on the answer to the question.
I made the objection on the record, and told you even what you can do to enforce it.
What was the total cost of the election interference case?
I don't recall, but if we want to talk about cost, I'd love to talk about how last year alone the AG paid one lawyer $8 million.
You don't know what the cost of you don't know the cost of the election interference case?
I don't know the exact cost.
What's the range?
As I don't want to speculate to numbers. Whatever it cost, they tried to steal the rights of thousands of Georgians. It couldn't have been enough.
What was the rough total operating budget of your office last year?
I don't know that. It's probably around $40 million. That's a speculation and a guess. That includes state money, grant money, and that's not an exact number. I don't do the budget. I have very high-level conversations about that.
Okay. Can you give us a rough breakdown of that, the county budget and the state budget?
I cannot, and I'm not going to guess for you.
Does the federal government give you any money?
I do have some grants, yes.
The only source of federal money you get is from grants?
To my knowledge, I don't. There may be something else. We may have some federal seizure money. If we do, it's not much. So I don't know. I don't want to speculate. If I say, oh, they gave me grant money and this federal seizure money, and you find some line item someplace that I don't know, you'll swear I was trying to lie to you when the truth is I don't know the correct answer.
I'm just trying to get to, I know you run a tight ship over there, you're proud of your work. I would assume that you would have
I'm the
some
best
sort
DA in the Southeast. Why wouldn't I be proud of my work?
What's your annual budget?
I told you it's around $40 million, but I do not know an exact number.
And what's the approximate source of funds that you receive from the state versus the county?
Me, like every other district attorney in this state, do not receive enough funds. I told you that you all pay 20 to 25 ADAs. I don't know the exact number. I don't have it in front of me. You pay two legal assistants and one investigator. Now, Fulton County is 1,000,002 people. It's the place that when people come to Georgia, they're coming is to Atlanta. On a daily basis, we have 5 million people, and we are very improperly funded. If this committee wants to do some real work, it'll get serious about crime fighting among this state. From every rural community to
Madam DA,
I'm answering my question.
I'm good. That's not an answer to the question.
Okay, well,
You have the right to finish your answer.
if this committee wants to get serious about legislation to make the communities in the state of Georgia safer, they will invest more money in every district attorney's office across this state. That's the rural DAs need more, the middle size, the residentials, and the big cities like Atlanta. All of us need more resources to be able to do our job appropriately, and it is a joke the way that these people are funded that are dedicating their lives to public service. Also, I want to go back to, because this is extremely important and you have the power to do it, the Georgia Bureau of
Madam
Investigations
DA,
cannot
I
take
did
rape
not ask you
kids.
for advice on what the legislature
You
should
asked
do.
That's exactly what the resolution said, to take advice on legislation.
And we will get to that time.
Well, you asked the question, she has a right to fully answer.
And if she would answer the question, Governor, I would not be saying it. She's pontificating on everything from rape kits, which was what she was about to get into. The question was the amount of money that came from state funds and county funds. And if she doesn't know the answer to that question, the answer is I don't know. The question isn't let me talk. The answer isn't let me talk about rape kits. So I'll get back to the line of questioning. I'm going to give you latitude here, Madam DA, but same way in a courtroom, there are guardrails as to what we need to stay in and within. Indeed, Governor, and this is not a courtroom.
Power to make evidentiary rulings, and you don't have the power.
I have plenary power, Governor, to conduct the meeting.
No, sir, you
Absolutely.
You do not have plenary power. I know you think you do, and that you're above the law, but you are not. If you want to cite her for contempt,
Governor.
she is entitled to a jury trial, and I can examine you on your actions, and I can examine you on your motives, then I will be glad to take that. As Clint Eastwood would say, make my day.
We know the motives. He's on the ballot.
Governor, this is
a witch hunt.
This is a hearing of the Senate Special Committee on Investigations.
You're not worried about those that you convicted illegally and locked up. Why is it that you run ads?
We're going to go on to our next question. How are the funds? You say that we give you the money, and I know that's a loose term,
DA for every
and that flows into the Fulton County coffers, so to speak. And when you remit payment, you do that through the Fulton County accounting system. Is that correct?
Your question was compound. I didn't understand.
Sure.
that.
I'll try to break that down. When checks are written as a result of a check request made by your office, those checks are paid by Fulton County. Is that correct?
I don't know how every check is written and if that's going to be 100% accurate. So I'm going to refrain from asking that question. What I can tell you is that and probably happens in every other circuit. The district attorney has control over their budget and they don't have to go to the county. But I understood I was a woman DA coming into office. I also understood that I was African American. And so therefore there would always be a target on my back. And so I did two things financially. One is I've never, so people can stop requesting, had a credit card associated with that office. Never. So I've never had a credit card, will never have a credit card. The other thing I did is that there is a CFO of Fulton County, a white female. Her name is Sharon Whitmore. I believe you've heard from her. And so I made it so that the procedures of my office, although I did not have to do it, that it has to go through her for clearance. That way nobody would say the district attorney stole any money.
Okay, that gets to the core of my question. So when you're paying vendors, when you're paying contractors, that's going through, I think you said her name was Ms. Whitmore, and she did testify before the committee. What I'm getting to, and I'm trying to figure out, is whether when the state funds come in, the federal funds come in, the county funds come in, are those paid for out of separate accounts, or those funds kind of commingled into a general budget, if you will, and that gets allocated?
I really couldn't answer the question. There's many different pots of money from the county. The state directly pays those state employees. Then they get another check from the county, the ones that don't make enough from the state. I really can't fully answer your question of all the ways. I have a team that I call my deputy. I have a deputy of operations and a team that does that kind of stuff, but there's some money from the county, there's some money from the state. The grant money I know goes through the state. The truth is I don't have any grants. Fulton County has grants, but those grants do benefit my office. My Saki unit is renowned. I'm ending the year with a 100% conviction rate on special victims division. Saki is a sexual assault kit initiative. Georgia, like many states, failed victims, mainly victims of color. And so rape kits for years, going back to the 80s, were not tested. So we have a grant with the federal government that, and I'm talking about thousands of rape kits, where they go and they test those rape kits. What we have found is if they would have done those jobs and believed those victims, that many of those rape kits go back to serial rapists. They also go back to people that have committed other crimes. I have excellent attorneys that are in that unit, some that I pay out of the grant, some that I add with my general fund. And as I said, not just my Saki unit, but my crimes against children unit, my Saki unit, my sexual assault unit, my human trafficking unit. We're ending the year with 100%.
So just yes or no on these, we can move quickly on to the next topic. You said you do not have a county credit card or a DA credit card.
Absolutely not. So y'all can say I stole some money.
Is there any sort of DA checking account that's separate that you use to pay your vendors or anything like that, or is it all go through the county?
I really can't answer that, and so I'm not going to speculate.
Okay. You mentioned forfeiture funds before. Do you have a ballpark of how much you've received? I think you said it was a small number of state forfeiture funds.
No, I said federal.
Okay.
I don't think there's much in the federal forfeiture account.
Do you receive state forfeiture funds?
I do.
Approximately how much a year is that in an average year?
I don't know the number to that. I can tell you I have sitting in abeyance. I just did a huge forfeiture, but it's not money we can touch yet, and it's a couple $1 million.
Okay. What's your understanding of the allowed uses of state forfeiture funds?
Oh, if I don't know the use of a forfeiture money, I talk to lawyers in the office. I'll go to PAC. I don't touch forfeiture money unless I get some approval.
Do you know of any delineation between the allotment, the allowance of uses between state forfeiture funds
Yeah, there's
and
definitely
federal?
rules around. There's definitely rules.
I was asking about the difference between federal and state, if there's any rules there.
There are rules to both, and I don't know I can't tell you the rules for each. Anytime we were going to make an expenditure, we would look at it, I'm sure.
Do you know if those funds are commingled at all within your system?
I don't know it, but I would believe not.
Okay. Who is it? You mentioned that you've got people. Who is it that oversees the use of forfeiture funds in the office?
It's going to be the county that stuff is going to go back to the county.
Okay. And do you know whether or not any forfeiture funds were used to pay Mr. Wade?
I'm not aware of that. We would have submitted the invoices to the county. The county would have used one of those mini line items. They would have paid them.
Can you think of a reason why forfeiture funds would be used to pay Mr. Wade?
I guess he's.
Don't ask. She just told you that she doesn't know. So.
Yeah, you were asking me to speculate.
You do not know whether Mr. Wade was paid with state forfeiture funds or not?
You're asking me to speculate.
No, I'm asking if you know whether or not state forfeiture, any forfeiture funds were used.
I'm unaware of that.
Okay.
I'm unaware if the answer is yes. I'm unaware if the answer is no. What I'm aware of is the process was turn in a bill, and they would do it. You and Jim Jordan working together?
I've never talked to Mr. Jordan.
He's a delightful guy.
Just
I don't
just
know
want to
about
point
that.
this-
Anybody who doesn't report people that get raped in college, I'm gonna have to disagree
just
with you
want to
there,
point this
Governor.
out here. This is, you recognize the bottom form here? Fulton County Court Payment Voucher?
I don't.
Is this you've never seen any document in this format before?
Never.
Okay. Well, this shows a number of things here. It shows what fund it was paid from here, which is 440, which is your the forfeiture fund account. You can see at the top the unit name confiscated funds for this invoice, and then here you can see that this was a payment made, and I apologize, you can't see my mouse. On the left side there, right in the middle, you can see that this was a payment made to the law office of Nathan Wade. In reviewing for your testimony today, we just did review the bills and look through different sources of funds that were used to pay Mr. Wade. I know you weren't, your testimony is you were not aware that forfeiture funds were used. We saw Mr. Wade was paid from forfeiture funds and from the county general fund, which is Fund 100. And that's why I was getting to the uses of forfeiture funds to pay independent contractors. Do you have any knowledge of any restrictions that may be around the concept of using forfeiture funds to pay independent contractors?
I do not. It was my understanding that Mr. Wade was paid out of my professional services budget.
Okay. What's the accounting process? Like, that's kind of what I was getting to earlier, of kind of, if it was your understanding he was paid out of the professional services budget, that would intimate that there's some sort of accounting procedure within either your office or the county office where there are separate fund allocations. And I asked you if your funds were commingled and everything was paid out of the same, or if there were dedicated accounts. So you were, unaware that Mr. Wade was paid out of the forfeiture funds. You believe he was paid out of the professional services funds. What would be the process, as you understand, in your office to determine what fund a invoice is paid from?
You're in the weeds, and I don't know the answer.
Okay. We've already talked about the selection of the special SADAs, special assistant district attorneys. I may use those interchangeably. The process of interviewing Governor Barnes, among some other folks, ultimately settling on Mr. Wade.
Well, I don't want you to act like he was,
Well, after just talking to 2 or 3 people, I think, to be fair, I don't think
he's a
I'm not
lawyer,
seeing at the
been
bottom of
practicing law 25 years.
Sure. What was the reason that you chose to use, and I think if you could just unpack this for us a little bit more, that you chose to use a special assistant DA at the rate of $250 an hour versus using the attorneys that were already in your office, or hiring additional attorneys at a rate that you referenced earlier is between, I think you said, between $85,000 and $200,000 a year?
Because we were drowning, and each of so most of the lawyers I had in the office wouldn't be qualified to do that work, most of them. I had some that were qualified to do that work, but each of them had a major project. Let me use those 2 cases that mattered most to me, Kennedy Maxey and Sequoia Turner. I was determined we were going to win those cases. So on day 1, those cases got handed to Miss Dacia Young. In addition to handing her that, because nobody has one job, I handed her the Special Victims Division, at which time had like 8 units. So she's doing both these 2 big cases, and she's over the entire Special Victims Division. Same thing with Mr. Carlson, very qualified lawyer, but I handed him 6 units, and I also told him, you gonna get rid of these 250 or so murders that we have. We're gonna do a project, we're gonna set it up, we're gonna go one by one. So every lawyer I had with that level of experience had a huge project. I assigned a lawyer to deal with the 18,000 backlog. I don't wanna be sitting here in, it took us, I think, 3 years to get through those, as well as keep up with the 46,000 cases that end up coming in my first term. So everyone had some. So it became obvious to me that I needed a lawyer that could manage this team while I did the rest of the work of the people.
And there was nobody else, either internal or that you could have hired at a lower rate that you just described?
A lower rate than $250? It's an insult to take $250 for a lawyer that's been practicing law that long.
I thought you told me earlier that your range of people that work for you are between 85, not dollars an hour, but $85,000 a year and $200,000 a year.
Yeah, but at
which would be the-
85,000 is like one domestic violence grant. I usually only hire someone with 3 years of experience. I make an exception with that because that's, you know, an offensive salary. Although I can tell you, I think the state is paying lawyers 64,000. I mean, it's ridiculous. I know a little girl just graduated Georgetown Law, and she's making $280,000, $300,000 a year. We do not take public service seriously, and we need to, because my lawyers do greater work than most of these lawyers in this civil firm.
And let me point out one thing. You're using gross amounts. That doesn't include
Benefits.
the perks, the health insurance and all that stuff, which Wade did not have.
Sure. So describe for me the experience level of your top paid, or somebody that would fall within the category of the top paid assistant district attorney that works for you at the $200,000 a year, and to Governor Barnes's point, plus benefits. Let's just say that that's $250, and if I take that divided by 2,000 hours, that's about $125 an hour.
I don't understand the question.
My question is, what is the experience level of the assistant district attorneys?
Are you
in your
trying to
office?
intimate that you're going to tell me who to hire and how to do my job?
No, ma'am. I'm asking you, the people, the wonderful people that you have hired, they're the top of your pay scale at $200,000 a year. What is their experience level? Because I'll let you answer that, and I'll ask my next question.
20 years practicing or
Okay.
more.
And it's your testimony that somebody with 20 years practicing or more would not be able to manage the election interference case.
You are really not listening. I said that I had people at that pay rate, and each of them was assigned a major task within my office. And no, I did not have anyone that was not assigned with a major task that I trusted to manage this case. And so I made a decision. The people of Fulton County elected me to make that decision, and I did.
Is there a reason why you decided to go the special assistant district attorney route via independent contractor as opposed to a new full-time hire?
I think it's asked and answered, sir.
Okay.
Because it was cheap. You don't have to pay the perks.
Governor, I'm happy for you to provide counsel to your client, but in terms of testimony, that's what the district attorney is here for today.
Well,
Can you describe?
give you fair notice. I'm not going to allow her to answer repetitive questions that have been answered time and time again.
Were there any internal policies that you had that kind of drew a line between when you would use your internal staff versus hiring a special assistant district attorney, or was it more so based on workload like you described?
It was based on my decisions.
Okay. At its peak, how many total attorneys were working on the election interference case?
Maybe 9, approximately.
You referenced a Mr. Cross before. I believe that's a.
Who?
I believe you referenced a Mr. Cross before
I don't know, Mr. Cross.
a couple minutes ago. Miss Cross, I apologize.
What about him?
Her.
Who are you talking about?
Miss Anna Cross.
I never referenced Miss Anna Cross.
I believe you referenced Miss Cross when we were going through
I didn't read back the testimony.
Can you give me the breakdown of the total attorneys that were on the case? How many of those were full-time within your office, and how many of those were independent contractors?
I believe I had 3 independent contractors.
One of those being Mr. Wade. Who were the other 2?
John Floyd, Anna Cross. Diversity, white male, white female, black male. Diversity is intentional.
What kind of experience do you look for in those special assistant district attorneys?
They're all amazing lawyers. John Floyd is the RICO expert. He wrote the book, literally. He taught me RICO. So that was his experience. He's not he's not necessarily going to be the trial prosecutor, but he certainly is great to help you put together an indictment, and he is certainly capable of questioning a witness, but that was not his forte. Ms. Cross is a brilliant mind. She writes beautifully, and is very well versed in the law. I had worked for a prosecutor in the past, so I looked for smart people with integrity that could do the work. And I got 3 lawyers, each that God put in different skin, that could do the work.
Thank you for giving us Ms. Cross's background, the rest of those as well. Has Mr. Wade ever prosecuted a RICO case prior to the election interference case?
Mr. Wade has certainly was served as a prosecutor before this. He also has worked as a criminal defense attorney, and I don't know, I believe he has defended RICO cases.
But as far as you know, he had not prosecuted.
I didn't need him for that. That's why I get to make the selection and not you.
Has he ever prosecuted any felonies? I know you referenced him prosecuting cases. It's my understanding that this was the first felony case that he was on the prosecutor side for. Is that accurate?
I'm not sure if that's accurate. I know he did some, I believe he did some work for the Attorney General, although the Attorney General never tries as many cases as my office.
I want to talk about.
But different people are needed for different things. And the people of Fulton County elected me to make those decisions. And I know y'all want to come in and be daddy and create QAnon committees that will judge prosecutors and have these committees. But unfortunately for you, I won this vote by 68% this time, 87 in the Democratic, 68 the general, 72% last time. So the people of Fulton County have selected me to make these choices, and I make them. And my city and county are safer because I make them.
In the in your prior testimony with Ms. Ashley Merchant, there was conversation around what she referred to as block billing. How would you describe block billing?
Oh, let's talk about Ms. Merchant.
Let's just talk about block billing, please.
We're not.
You've opened it now.
I've opened the question to block billing.
You know, the credibility of whoever's saying it is an issue.
Well, then let's just.
So I'd like to talk about what this committee did the last time we were here, and for the press, I will have 50 copies of this so each person can get a copy. You all, the last time y'all had a committee meeting, you all purported this lie that I had the honor of meeting Vice President Kamala Harris. The
question's
Me?
about block
No, I'm
billing,
going to
Madam
answer
Dia.
this question right now. And when you stated that, you stated that it was me and it was Mayor Dickens. And then you put this exhibit up for the entire world to see. How disingenuous, how lacking of integrity for Ms. Merchant as an attorney to put it up, and for Cowsert, who I noticed is cowardly not here, to have it here. This clearly says, I'm at a Black History Month project. Almost every important Black elected official across the country was invited to it. I'm on the lawn with a cocktail, and yet y'all tell the world I was sitting down with the vice president having a meeting. It was a damn lie. And this is the evidence of it. And y'all had the audacity to put it up on a screen as if you were showing something other than the DA was having a cocktail on the lawn. I have never even had the honor of meeting Vice President Kamala Harris. Never.
How would you define block billing?
Like somebody who didn't know what the hell they were talking about.
When I refer you to the screen, these are.
I don't review those documents, so you're asking me to look at documents that I haven't for the first time. What I can tell you is that I
I'll give
only
you time to
allowed
review the
Mr. Wade to
documents.
bill 160 hours a week, and then Mr. Wade would be the first one in the office making sure that my staff arrived. He corrected their behavior. They thought that 8:30 meant 8:30. He taught them that 8:30 means 7:45. He got there before them. He left after him. He taught them how to do this case, and he was a leader to that team and a public servant. And for that, him like me has been threatened thousands of times. You want something to investigate as a legislature? Investigate how many times they've called me the N-word. Why don't you investigate that? Why don't you investigate them writing on my house? Why don't you investigate the fact that my house has been swatted if you want something to do with your time that makes sense? And you can use all this in your campaign ad. You attacked Fani Willis. What have you done, sir? Nothing.
So I'm going to refer you to the screen. I know you said you don't approve.
I don't look at this.
review
I've never
these
seen
bills.
it, so I can't talk to you about documents I don't approve and don't review. Can't talk to you about it.
Who does approve the documents in your office when invoices come in?
I thought we'd been through this.
I don't believe you said who reviews the invoices and approves the invoices in your
First
office.
of all, I have no firsthand knowledge of it.
You have no
You
firsthand
want me to
knowledge of.
testify about something I don't have any firsthand knowledge of?
I'm asking-
Are you asking me to speculate? Because I've clearly told you I don't have any firsthand knowledge of it, and I'm not going to speculate.
The question is, when an invoice comes into your office from a special assistant district attorney, what is the review process for that invoice before it's paid?
And she's answered this. She said she has a deputy of operations, and he reviews, or she reviews, and then it goes through the county. So it's a repetitive question.
What's the name of the deputy of operations?
The question has been asked and answered, and I believe it goes straight to the county, so I'm not sure. Dexter Bond.
Okay. Do you know who ATG may be, initials within your office?
I don't.
I would assume it's accurate to say it's probably not Dexter Bond.
I don't. It may be somebody at the county.
What we're looking at here are two bills that were paid by and approved by your department. The one on the left is from the Cross firm, which refers to Anna Cross that we referenced earlier. The one on the right is invoice number 11 from Nathan Wade. And the first thing that
Let me tell you why this is such a damn
first
joke.
thing that jumps out to me as a non-lawyer, but as someone who has paid lawyer bills before, and I believe this gets to the question, the question which was around block billing. And here's my question for you, Madam DA. Are there rules in your contracts or otherwise when you hire independent contractors that gets to the billing methodology for your attorneys? In other words, are they allowed to always bill to the even hour? Or is there a professional expectation that they would bill to the 10th or
Let me tell you
quarter-
something. I
quarter
had
hour?
3 attorneys working with me that had integrity. For you to insinuate that a judge that sat for 10 years and was the head of the magistrate court judges, that they did something illegal. They were underpaid. I have here documents where in one annual year, because I want you to remember his bills were over the course of 3 years, in one annual year made $8 million, made $5 million. And I'm going to make sure that the press has that so that when you're asking me about this great service to the state of Georgia, that it is understood that these are more than reasonable, actually bargain basement amounts. Ms. Cross would insist that I wrote government rate in her contract because she didn't want anyone to get confused that she would actually work for this rate, but for the fact that it was service to her community. So I don't know what we're talking about here, but to insinuate these 3 lawyers that have great integrity, have served this community well, did something unethical, I don't know why we're having this conversation.
I'm trying to.
I don't know anything about the whatever you're talking about.
The state of Georgia allocates funding to your office.
They
And I-
hire those 25
and-
lawyers, yes.
And we are the questioning here is relative to the approval process of invoices that are paid by your office. You have testified that that is done by Dexter Bond, that you're unaware of who this ATG is that signed off on this. We'll move on to this further line of questioning here.
You know, old men have to go to the bathroom about every hour.
Governor, would you like a 5-minute recess?
I believe it would.
We'll take a 5-minute recess.
Wow, so things are getting very heated up in there. Um, Today is I believe it's the first day for the testimony for the district attorney of Georgia, who is Fani Willis. We know that there was a lot of scandal going on, and then she went to, well, alleged scandal going on. She stood her ground in the courtroom and everything. Switch it to the NYC avatar. There we go. And this testimony, while they're on break, I figured I'd chime on in. Is very interesting because it's like it's not only are they asking her questions, as you see, those that are here, I appreciate you being here. Um, Fani Willis is taking this opportunity to clear her name of rumors that have been going on for some years now or months prior. So we're seeing that she's figuring like she's going to take this opportunity to let her voice be heard, not only to answer the questions, but you could tell she's fired up about things that have been said about her. She is just ready. Like as soon as this began, you could just see her face. She's fired up. And that's how she was when they had her hearings on her relationship with Attorney Wade. So she did have a relationship. She stood on the fact that it didn't interfere with anything and it was okay. But they were like, no, you really take an oath not to, engage with other people intimately when they are a part of a case, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and she's also been a strong advocate against Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, and she's been seeking to prosecute him. Now, just recently, all those charges have been dropped. They are not going to be able to pursue Trump as much as she really still wants to do it. They told her no. So that's been denied. So she's testifying before the Senate committee today in Georgia, because they're asking her about her spending practices, and they're still asking questions about the Wade fella. I thought we were like past that and we were done, but again, she's being investigated, so that's what we're seeing. Hey there, Jerome. All right, so I appreciate y'all coming through. It's always an open chat room here too. If you have any thoughts, it does help the algorithm, at least for what it's worth. But not just, for the algorithm. It's mainly because I like seeing how you guys feel about things. And it's a way to engage with people when you do come on live. So I saw this and I saw how things were heating up. And as soon as she came in, she looked like she was fired up. And I was like, you know what? I want to put this on a live stream so we could see it all together in real time and, know what's going on. So, yeah. It's good too that Willis has a representative with her, a counsel. So you see that sometimes he's chiming in like, "Hey, you already asked her that question. She answered that question." So there's a lot of back and forth. She's cussing. She's like, "This don't make no damn sense." She said, "What this shit they're talking about?" She wants to get this over with. She's had enough. She's had enough. She had enough a year ago. So I just think it's interesting, and I don't know how much further they have, but I'll probably stay on a while longer, and for maybe up to a half hour more, I'll go. Other than that, when I do a live stream again, if I don't come back on later tomorrow, I will most likely bring some of this up, and just show little clips from it, some highlights from the investigating committee that they have going on today. So they should be returning shortly. Actually, let me skip because we're just a little back. So let me do that now, and then we can continue.
To the rates of the AG, I would like you to know that in 2020, the Attorney General of this state paid $52,000 in attorney's fees. I've done initial 52 million in attorney's fees with the top recipient in a year, initial AF. I've taken 52,000 in attorney's fees. I've done initial 52 million in attorney's fees with the top recipient in that year, initials AF. I've taken off their name at 3,593,000. That was for 2020. In 2021, again, in excess of 52 million, with the top one in that year being AD as the initials, 2,673,000. I should note the great Josh Belafonte was one of the recipients that year, and he made 1.3 million in 2021. In 2022, the AG's office spent on special prosecutors $55 million. DS being the top recipient for that year,
I think we're outside of the,
$2 million,
scope.
200,000. Josh Belafonte made $911,000. In 2023, the AG's office spent $65 million with the top recipient making $5 million, initials MR, and I'm going to finish. And 2024, the top recipient was MR, and they made $4.6 million. And then let's not leave off 2020.
All right, we're going to move on to the next question here.
by the AG on special prosecutors, with the top recipient MR making $8,181,421, and y'all are talking to me about pennies. And I have a copy for the press 50 if you like them.
And I'd like this included in the record.
All right, we're going to move on to our next question here.
And it is relevant since you're questioning the rate of the special prosecutor.
That's for the press.
All right, I want to refer your attention to the screen. Madam D, have you seen this letter before?
It's got my signature on it.
Do you have seen this letter before?
Yes, that's how it got signed.
You sent this letter on December 17th, 2021, requesting access to documents to from the January 6th committee, Chairman Mr. Representative Thompson. Is that correct?
I did.
Okay. Did you or anyone in your office receive help in your investigation from the January 6th commission?
Do you want me?
What do you mean by help?
Did they send you documents?
Well, they're public documents now.
Did they send you any documents that were not public? That were not public at the time? 'Cause
None that I can
the report's
recall.
been
None that I
released.
can recall.
In the letter, you offer to meet them in person. Did they take you up on the offer to meet in person?
I've never met Thompson.
Have you ever met anyone that was doing work with the January 6th commission?
Not to my knowledge. I may have met them and not known they were doing that work.
Mr. Wade traveled to D.C. with members of your staff. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And Mr. Wade billed for conference calls with the January 6th committee. Is that correct?
I haven't looked at the bills.
What difference does that make?
On the left side of the screen here, and I apologize, the camera's in your way. There's a screen over here.
You'll have to remember the criminals that I
Yes, you can
indicted,
see.
they had committed crimes all over the country. And so as a result, as a prosecutor, if you know that a criminal has done crimes in this state and other states, it would almost not be due diligence to try to get information from them. Here goes some more legislation you can take up. There is a process called TUI with the federal government where state prosecutors try to get information from federal prosecutors. They are not very helpful.
All right, it's not very helpful. The setup on YouTube. Originally, I came in as a horizontal, but the screen share was acting up, so I just popped back up in vertical. But this is a lot going on. It's really interesting. So I know if more people knew about this live hearing, they would want to see it because it has effect on different states too, and it's a lot of information here. It's really interesting, and the details that are being and some things that are actually being exposed too. So yeah. So I don't know. YouTube and a lot of you guys are kind of interesting too, but not in a good way. All right. So peace. See y'all next time. Stay well. Catch you another time when I come back on either later or tomorrow. I'm gonna at least review just some information that was exchanged, show some clips, and I always have content, so I have some other content too going on for y'all. All right, and hope you enjoy. Hope to see you and or feel you back. Peace.